Hi everyone, good morning. We are the Three Angels Messengers Ministry and we're here with you once more. Today we are in Tivoli Gardens at the Tivoli Gardens Community Center and we are sharing with the brethren here, with the people here in Tivoli Gardens. Yes, what are we doing today again? We are going with the medical missionary with the health message and of course the gospel. So we're doing blood pressure check, blood sugar check, temperature check, weight check. We have Dr. Morgan here talking with the people currently, and of course we will be bringing the gospel. We'll be sharing how to prepare healthy meals from natural sources, and of course likewise how to treat our bodies naturally. So thank you for tuning in, thank you for sharing in the way you can, and remember, we are here to bring the gospel to the world. So in your corner, brighten the corner where you are. Thank you for your prayers and for your gifts as we continue to bring the gospel to every nook and cranny that we can, as God will permit us. Thank you so much.
Diabetes and these things, high blood pressure, the vegetables, whether in herb form or whether in juice form or whatever, right, is much better in most cases to bring about healing. That doesn't mean say we should also have some fruits. However, when the Lord said the herbs for the healing of the nation, that is why he gave man vegetables added to his diet when sin entered, because he knew that as a result of sin, what would come on? Sickness. Diseases would come on. And in some cases, it might not be the person's fault, although in most cases it's our fault. And why I say in some cases, we look at Job. Job was a perfect man, as Job 1 tells us. Right? A man who eschews, or meaning he hates evil. So Job wouldn't be watching the television today where he sees certain things and whatever. Because the psalmist says that he would not what? Set anything what? Wicked in front of his eyes. So Job was a man who was upright. And in spite of that, he came down with terrible sickness. Sickness, because what? The Lord allows Satan to put that on him. Now we also have the Apostle Paul, who had a thorn in the flesh. And we're told that that was his eyesight, as a result of his Damascus experience. And Paul prayed 3 times for the Lord to remove it. And the Lord said, no, my grace is sufficient. And then the third one I mentioned is that there was this man called Elisha. One of the only 2 persons in the Old Testament that the Lord gave the gift of bringing somebody from death back to life. But the only person also in the Bible that they put a dead man on his bones and the dead man came back to life. And most people don't realize that Elisha had a lame foot. He died with that. The Lord would not heal him. But the Lord gave him grace. So that is telling us, just like for example, John the Baptist, he did not allow John the Baptist to escape prison. And he did not release him from there, because if he had released John the Baptist, every time we go, whenever for the truth's sake we are locked up in prison, we'll expect God to come and deliver us. So the same thing with sickness. Sometimes he allows sickness to come upon us, not for his glory, not that we did anything that merits it in a way, but for his glory. And so, but most of the time, we are sick because we disobey the laws of God. And so, when the Lord gave man his original diet, it was to help maintain man's health, because he had made man in his own image. Everything, the Bible records that everything God created, it was good. So man was good. And believe it, the coffee was good. Oh yes, but not good to eat. Good to purify the air and by absorbing carbon dioxide out of the air and releasing oxygen. Okay. Now, unfortunately, Because something is good for one purpose, sometimes we abuse it by using for another purpose. So sometimes people ask, well, why wasn't coffee created since we are not supposed to drink coffee? Because of the caffeine in it that not only can cause kidney cancer, bothers the nerves, right, destroys it, but also can interfere with the unborn child, that it can cause genetical dysfunction. Likewise, the chocolate, that cocoa that we drink. You remember the chocolate tea or the cocoa tea? Yeah. Yes, I would call the cocoa tea. Dangerous stuff too. It has something in it called theobromine. Theobromine is a member of the caffeine family. Oh yes. Dangerous. Yes, me know say you love it. I used to. I can tell you today, if the Lord were to take the theobromine out of chocolate, I would be one of the first ones to enjoy eating chocolate again, something I've been eating for decades. Because you see, this is the temple of the Lord. And since it's the temple of the Lord, I have decided by the grace of God not to put anything in there to defile it. Because if I eat chicken, or any form of animal product, I'm defiling this temple. You said, oh, Dr. Morgan. Well, every animal product, from the milk, another form of dairy, to the flesh, to whatever, about the meat, has cancer cells in it. Has cancer cells. There can be nothing that generates blood without forming cancer cells. Now, the mosquito does have cancer cell in it because it's your blood it took, but on its own it doesn't. But whether it's the goat, the cow, the crab, the lobster, the chicken, you name it, they all come with cancer cells. Now, does our body produce cancer cells? Yes. Since I've been up here, my body, your body has been producing cancer cells. Now, what the Lord has given us is something called the immune system, which is supposed to kill cancer cells and keep them to the point where they do not overrun the body. And how cancer cells work is that they look for the weakest part of the human body. I just want you to imagine that they are like a cow in a pen. And there goes again, why I'm glad for the gospel, it protects us. Isn't that true? Oh, definitely. Right? The gospel, for 45 years now, I've embarked on a plant-based diet. And when I embarked on a plant-based diet, I didn't really have good health. I would go to the bathroom maybe once every 3-4 days. You call that constipation. If you saw me back then, and if any of you were my age back then, and I called to you, maybe you'd go home with your face in your hands, crying to your mother and say, one bull-faced young man, called to me down the road. That's how my face was looking back then. Pimples, like eruptions would take place. You know why? Because I love donkey jawbone. Okay, somebody asked what is donkey jawbone. Crisp biscuit. I love white flour stuff. I love all the sugary stuff. I remember when I was a child and they said, if I am sick, which was very rare, and you offer me homemade biscuit and I don't eat it, you know, I'm on my way to the grave. And donkey jawbone and biscuits and crackers and whatever, right, were my pillow. Bob Marley said that Rockstone was his pillow. The old word, not Rockstone, was my pillow. So I would put those things on my pillow, and you know that's what a dangerous thing to do, right? Because I ate it and fell asleep, but not, right? And you know, in those days you don't brush teeth that much, unfortunately, right? So no wonder I developed cavity after a while. However, but worse than the cavity was the constipation. That way many times I would go to the bathroom and I would ask the Lord to take my life because that cold sweat and that bad feeling, you know, sometimes you ask the Lord for something and He doesn't honor it. And it's a blessing when He doesn't honor it. because I wouldn't be alive talking to you today. But that was the humanity just come forward, the weakness of the humanity that I would ask the Lord to take my life. And then when I became an Adventist now, I realized that that which we eat affect our health, affect our mentality, affect our spirituality, and that these things I was eating, oh, by the way, before I say that, I remember my aunt used to have some pimples problem, not one of my aunts, not as bad as I had it, but she used to use something called Deluxe Nadinol. Those days there was no bleaching. They just use it, it's not like now when people bleed. They just use it to get rid of the spots left behind by the pimples. And so I used to do that, and then when I went to the States in 79, since she wasn't with me, I left here in Jamaica, I went to a store and I asked him for this Nadinol cream, and the fellow who was running the store pointed to me on a shelf, and I went over there and I searched here, there, you name it, to find the Deluxe one. I said bleaching one. It was not there. Because I was just tired of the pimples and tired of the marks that they leave behind. And I went back to him and I said, I'm looking for the Deluxe one. He said that can't be sold in the United States because it has a certain chemical that causes cancer. So I said, how I get it in Jamaica? I said, listen, they will dump it on the third world countries, but they can't sell it here. The FDA banned it. So if it causes cancer, why was I putting it on my skin? I didn't know better. So you see how Babylon works? Right? So I was eating the food that caused the constipation. The constipation with the impure blood caused pimples, and then I turn around, that can cause cancer. I turn around now and put a cream on my face that can further cause cancer. That's the trap Babylon put us in. And that's the trap the devil leads Babylon to put us in. So that's why the Lord said, remind us that our body is the temple of the Lord. And we should not put certain things in there. And I didn't know better because, God bless my parents' heart, but they were Anglicans, they didn't know better. So in the Anglican church, like most churches, you eat, drink, whatever. And when you get sick, you just say, well, I guess the Lord allowed the sickness to come on. Not realizing that what? Right? The Lord said, if we will turn from our wicked ways, meaning turn from the things that are causing the problem in the first place. And so that's why as a doctor, I will tell you, you don't come to me or call me and say, well, listen, I have diabetes or I have high blood pressure. And then no, I said, okay, come to my office on such a day. No. No matter how you want an appointment badly. We don't go down that road here. And no matter if you have Bill Gates plus Warren Buffett plus Elon Musk plus Mark Zuckerberg, right? No. It still don't impress me yet because there's nothing in it for the Lord so far. And I have to find out what is it for the Lord. When you and I meet, the Lord has to get something out of it. And don't tell me about the tithe that the Lord is going to get out of it. The Lord doesn't need money. Although we have to return our tithe, but that doesn't benefit the Lord. It benefits those who take the gospel. What benefits the Lord is when he said, if we will turn from our wicked ways. What is that wicked ways in that case? Is eating the things that we are not supposed to. Not exercising, not drinking enough water, right? Not going to bed on time. All of these lifestyle behavior, right, that undermine our health. They are the ones that the Lord is really talking about. If we will turn from not doing them, then he says, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. I'll tell you this, that yes, I'm from a family that heart attack runs in the family. My grandfather started with him, that's my mom's dad. He died at 58 in Spanish Town from a massive heart attack. Now you say, well, that's an isolated situation. He had a brother that died at his business place in Spanish Town, his then business place, and that brother was in his 40s from a massive heart attack. Now my grandfather should have taken, learn from that one. Why he should have learned from that one? Because he had a son who died at about 45 also from a massive heart attack. So that's 3. Now, many of you will say, oh, that's hereditary, that's genetic. His father, that's my great-grandfather, died at 45 from a massive heart attack. But his mother, that's my grandfather's mother, that's his grandfather's wife, she beat it all. She died in her sleep at 37 from a massive heart attack. So that's 5. So if I were in conventional medical school, sitting at these professors' feet, they would tell me that's genetics. It's not. What it is, just like that SUV there, if it's parked out there, they want it to come right here. So they can walk in it. Or if it's possibly in their bedroom. They didn't believe in walking. Little cantaloupe and some green bananas. It has to be liver, it has to be chicken, it has to be steak, which we call beef, it has to be curry goat or something. That's a lot of cholesterol that clogs the artery. And with no walking, and then belly full, stomach full, going to bed many a time. And by the way, if it's carrot juice, it's not the carrot that they blend with some water. Now we have the juice extractor, so you don't have to, use any water to blend to extract the juice out of it. No. They have to be Guinness, Nutriment, and eggs in it. One egg has 3 times the amount of cholesterol that the body needs. And then milk is in there too, right? Condensed milk, right? So the liver is made to make cholesterol because every organ in the body needs cholesterol to function. Even your reproductive organ that function of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone is made from cholesterol. So cholesterol is a very vital hormone for the body. But the Lord put the liver in our body to make that cholesterol. So we don't need to eat nothing or drink nothing with cholesterol. We are just adding more. I was talking to a friend earlier this week, and she's a health freak. That person makes me look bad, makes me feel like I've never embarked so far on this journey of a plant-based or healthy lifestyle. And she just got her result from the doctor. Her A1C is 5.7, that's border, that's just a little over the border. It should be below 5.6. Her cholesterol was 200 and something, and that person has been a vegan how many years now? She eats raw, she does all sorts of things. That's where the problem is? Stress. That causes her liver now to be producing too much cholesterol. Stress. Alright? So just imagine if she was, and she's saying to me, but wait, you have to put me on a program because so and so you have to, and she said, and I said, she said, but look at all the things I'm doing. I said, just imagine if you weren't doing those things. Said your mother died from a massive heart attack at 40. You're now in your mid-50s. You would have maybe died a long time ago before you even got to 40 because her mother died when she was 20 from a massive heart attack. So sometimes we get sick and somebody might say, well, you do all of these good things and you get sick or you have to, just remind them that, just say, suppose I wasn't doing that. Maybe I know naturally I would get around. So in spite of what we are doing, sometimes we are just putting things off for later years because of the damage that has been done. Person stops smoking at the age of 30. They might never have lung cancer, but maybe at the age of 60, they have lung cancer as a result of the damage done for the 10, 15 years that they smoke. But people generally don't consider that. They only think about what you have been doing of lately, not remembering the history of when you were not doing the right things. And so that is why the Lord gave us a perfect environment when He created man, gave us a perfect life, but we went astray. And so today, these sicknesses have caught up with us. I remember when I was a child, you hardly hear people had cancer. When you hear somebody died from cancer, it was like a bombshell. Heart attack was almost unheard of. As a matter of fact, when the few persons mainly had heart attack, we hear is dumpy that big then. Foolish, nothing named dumpy, more than people's imagination. But it was so rare. Today, they almost end up hitting people again because people are dropping left and right from stroke or heart attack. The doctor would really be very busy. But we know that stems from a clogged artery, and it never clogged by eating cabbage or callaloo or yam or banana or dasheen or whatever. No, it is clogged from one thing. It's called animal product. Because it comes with a lot of saturated fat that the body can't break down properly, and cholesterol that clogs the artery, and the passageway through the artery gets narrower and narrower. But it not only clogs it that way, right, it also stupefies the brain. Oh yeah, it does. And we're going to touch on that, why Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah, as it was in the days of Lot. He didn't say they were gambling, they were smoking marijuana, or they were doing those things. No. He said they were eating and drinking. And that carried them to the excess where they bought, they sold, they planted, they did all sorts of things. Because what? The food stupefied their mind. And so we're going to get there. So God gave man a healthy lifestyle. If you notice when he made man, he put man in a garden. He didn't put them in Tivoli or Spanish Town or wherever, but he put them in a garden. And that's what we should try to go back to. Now, I'm not talking about Tivoli garden necessarily. Right? Good place in a lot of sense, but God wants us to be able to provide our own food. Isn't that true? Amen. He wants us to live in the country where the air is fresh. And I know we have some beautiful people in this community and all communities, but if you notice when God created man, he put man in a garden. Cain was the first one who made a city. And who was Cain? The first rebellious one. He was the first person who built a city. And he built it at variance with God, because God only builds one city, and it is called the New Jerusalem. And by the way, we won't be living in the New Jerusalem when it comes on to earth. The Bible tells us in Isaiah 66 that from one Sabbath to another, from one new moon to another, we'll go up to Jerusalem to what? Worship him. If we are going to go up there, that means we don't live there. Where do we live? Just like the Lord intended, on the rest of the earth. And when he says go up, it's not up in the air, because John saw New Jerusalem came down and rested on this earth with the Father in there. And so earth will become God's new home. But we will plant. We'll build, as the Bible says, when we plant, another man will not inherit it. And when we build, right, another man will not take it over. Isn't that wonderful to know that the gospel offers us that hope, that joy? Because you know something? I moved from Everyday to Watermont, St. Catherine, where I grew up on a farm, and I love farming. When I went to Lincoln, it was agriculture that I majored in, and it's still in my bone. And being a Seventh-day Adventist, I will always tell folks, as I told my wife and children, that listen, I will not be satisfied for going to this food store to get my food until I can plant my own. So when I was in Spanish Town, and then I moved to Apedale, right, I guess where I always go to. Not Lee's Supermarket, I come all the way down to Coronation Market out there. Because I just love to see all that yam, that banana, that dasheen, that cocoa, that all of those things on the ground. Freshly done. Maybe a day or two before, sometimes the same day. Right. When I go into the store, right, it seemed like they were done 6 months ago. They look dry up and like there's nothing much in there. And so I love to go to Coronation Market, where I see the things in abundance and they look fresh. But my greater love is to have my own. So when I moved to Watermont, St. Catherine, I planted 800 rows of plantain, 200 rows of banana, I planted 100 ears of yam and oranges, grapefruit, mangoes, coconuts, you name it. And I think when I go there now, I see the orange tree, the citrus trees there, and I see the coconut trees there, but I see nothing else. I planted somebody else reap. Not so in the new earth. The Lord tells us that, guess what? We will plant and not another man reap. And that's a joy to look forward to the new Jerusalem, to the new earth where from one Sabbath to another we go up to worship Jerusalem, but on Sunday we come back down to begin the week working again. And Friday we go back up. Yes, it will really be a blessing. And we look forward to it, so that is part of the joy of the gospel. I can hardly wait, but before that can be a reality, we have a work to do. That's why we're in Tivoli today. Because we want to invite everyone here, living in here, to come with us. You remember Philip in the Bible? Philip was the one who went and called Nathaniel. And when you understand Philip's life, he was one who was always bringing people to Jesus. And that should be the same thing with us too. No man should have a joy that he wants to keep it to himself, right? That would benefit another person. And so that is why the good news, if you have good news, I remember when I passed over age to go to daycare. Every one of my friends I told it to. Because I was joyful. It was good news to me. Even more so, you and I should be willing to share the gospel, because it's more than good news passing an exam to go to a high school or to go to a college. This is looking at the fact that sin and sinners and Satan will be no more eventually. That is more than good news. And so, the Lord gave us this message. And it's a message where He not only gives us a plant-based diet, but He gives us country living, to live in the country where the air is fresh. Sister Watson gave me some water this morning, and it's rainwater. It tasted so good, purified rainwater. Tasted so sweet, but she said it tasted bitter to her. But I remember when I was in the country, that's how it tasted bitter. Until I started drinking distilled water, which rainwater is a form of distilled water. And then it slowly, little by little, started tasting less bitter, until now it tastes sweet. For years now it tastes sweet. Well, it's the same thing with salvation. It's the same thing, whether it's the new diet, the renewed diet that the Lord, not really new, it's a renewed diet that the Lord put us on, the renewed lifestyle. It's going to become a little awkward at first. Just like the rainwater tastes a little bitter to us. But then after a while it tastes sweet, because guess what? Our taste bud is accustomed to the other water, the hard water that is out there. With all of those salts like magnesium, sodium, potassium and different things in the water. But the rainwater is void, is empty of all of that. And so it's a light water. But as we drink it, then it becomes very sweet to us. Well, it's the same thing. When I started eating brown rice at first, versus the white rice that I grew up on, the brown rice, pardon my expression, tastes like hog food. Now, I didn't know what pig's food tastes like. Although I had my grandfather back in those days to raise his pigs. But I just imagine the coarseness at first. I would taste it in my mouth because, I grew up on the white rice for the most part. So when I tasted the brown one, it did not really, and I'm not talking about the bogus brown rice, like the one called Natural Diamond. When you read the pack, the label, when you read the ingredients on the packet, it says enriched long grain rice, which is your white rice color background. And all your poor boiled rice are not good rice either. They are just like your white rice. Your good rice would be, brown rice would be Grace has a brown rice. Thing there has, Mahatma has a good brown rice. Alright, Blue Ribbon has a good brown rice.
Kendall.
Is it? And the best one is, no, not Basmati, because it's hard, we are Basmati, but it's hard to find a good Basmati here in Jamaica. This company there.
Kendall.
Kendall, exactly. Now when you're invited, you have to cook Kendall ground rice. just messing with you. But it's a sweet jasmine rice at the Kendall. So I have lots of jasmine rice at my home because I love jasmine rice is one of those. To me, it tastes better than basmati rice. As good as basmati rice is. And it cooks very good. And I'm talking about the brown one. Right? So anyhow, yeah, it didn't taste good at first to me, the brown rice. Tasted so coarse. And then years after, one day I was invited to someone's home and it was white rice that they had. And I didn't really want to eat it, but I said, okay, I'm not going to eat for the rest of the day. No, I wouldn't eat it, and I'm not saying it's a sin, but I ate some, and when I put the first forkful in my mouth, it tasted like mud. Why? Because the brown rice changed like my taste bud. It reconditioned my taste bud to the point where now the white rice was insipid. The white rice was just like mud in my mouth. Not that it was so soft, but I missed that fiber that is there in the rice. And as I mentioned fiber, let me tell you one of the beauty about eating this way. Not only should we eat plant-based, but we should free ourselves of all of those refined foods. Why? Because when they take it from brown rice to white rice, from whole wheat flour to white flour, it loses its fiber. That's one. Many things it loses. But let's deal with the fiber first. Fiber is placed in the food by God to slow down, right, the breaking down of that food from complex carbohydrate to glucose, which is the sugar that the body can eat. See, when we eat, over 80% of the food that we eat, the body breaks it down to sugar because sugar is what gives the body energy. And without that sugar, the body, not even my eyelid, can work. If I try to turn my eye, it won't, because then the cells are getting no energy to perform their task of looking here, looking there. My heart will be beating because, again, the cells in the heart will be getting sugar to keep the heart functioning. Right? Same thing with the lungs. So every cell in our body, right, needs sugar. But the sugar that it needs is the one that the body makes, not the one we put in the bag and then use to make our lemonade. It needs to make its own sugar. And so, but it should not make its own sugar suddenly. It's more like a butterfly. If you look at a butterfly in its cocoon stage, struggling to get out of that cocoon, right? You feel sorry for that butterfly and said, boy, I wish I could just go over there and help it. But no, you don't do that. One person did it, and the butterfly flew off, and he felt relieved that he had the butterfly. But the butterfly got like over there and fell. And couldn't fly again, and eventually died. Why? Because the struggling of the butterfly helped to strengthen the muscles in the wings, so that now it can fly from here to Mexico. So many a time when we have children and we don't allow them to struggle and to get things and we give them everything, what happens? They become lazy, they become no-gooders. Alright? So we need to help them to struggle for things. Because when they go out there, sometimes they're going to get some hard time on the job, or even if they are self-employed from the person who they contract the job with. Can they just walk off it like that? No. Right? They have to put up with certain things. But if we make life too easy for them, every time problem comes up, they just walk away. And eventually know what happens to them. Exactly. Right? So likewise with the butterfly, we have to see it struggling. It's the same thing within our body. If we give the body that ready-made sugar, like what you buy at the store, then the body doesn't work for it. And it gets its sugar too easily too. And it floods the cells, and by the way, that sugar, 25 teaspoons of sugar knocks out 92% of the immune system for the next 16 to 18 hours. He said, okay, Dr. Morgan, I would never put 25 teaspoons of sugar in my body. Hello, I'm sure you wouldn't do it. But there's more than one way to hang a dog. I'm not supporting hanging dogs. than put a rope around the dog's neck. Right? All you have to do is eat one donut and drink a bottle of soda. Pepsi, honey, Mountain Dew, whatever it is, right? That's 25 teaspoons of sugar you put in the body, and that knocks out your immune system for the next 16 to 18 hours. And that's like nothing for most people to put in the body for the day. So that's one of the, so when that is done, what happens to the cancer cells in your body? Exactly, right? They have no immune system to keep them at bay, and you keep doing that, and we wonder why we are having cancer. Plus, we are eating chicken and fish, adding more cancer cells to the body. So the sugar is already knocking out the immune system, so it can't kill the cancer cells as it should. Then we put chicken, fish, milk, cheese, you name it in the body, and we are wondering why we have cancer. And then we go to the doctor, and the doctor said he's going to give us chemo. Which words now finish off the immune system, and let me say to you, 78 out of every 100 person who takes chemo die within 5 years. I remember someone from the Meadowvale Church said to me, Dr. Morgan, we take you serious, but let me tell you this. Dr. Douglas, what's his name? Try to remember his name. But anyhow, he's one of Jamaica's chief neurologists, urologists. I think he resigned. No, he retired now. But he came to the, and I can say this publicly because he said it publicly. If he said it in private, I would be saying it publicly and I would say, but I would call his name. All right? And he told them that chemotherapy, which I've been telling people over the years, kills more people than the cancer itself.
Exactly.
More people die from the chemotherapy drugs than the cancer that they have. And that is why the records show that 78 out of every 100 persons die from chemotherapy, die from cancer within 5 years who undergo chemotherapy. Because one, they do not, the doctors say there's no need to change your lifestyle, especially your diet. So they keep eating the chicken and the fish and whatever, right, which is not giving them more cancer cells. They are eating the sugars and those things which are knocking out the immune system, and then the chemotherapy just finish it off. And we are wondering why we are losing it, or not to mention the drugs. They are taken for high blood pressure, some or for diabetes. So it's a losing battle, and we doctors know but there's a lot of money to be made that way. The drug companies know it too, but there's a lot of money for them to make. Because let me drop this bombshell. Medicine is not about, in the first place, helping you, preventing you from getting sick. And when you get sick, it's not about helping you to regain your health. It's how much money we doctors can put in our pocket and also help the drug company make. Because actually we are licensed drug pushers from the drug companies. You go through Tivoli, you go through Watermount, you go through all of Jamaica, many places you'll find people selling drugs and they have to hide from the police. And you wonder why? Because the government cannot get any tax from them. But you go and you see the different, I won't call names, but you see the different pharmacies about the place. And they're also selling drugs. And their drugs is killing off more people than the marijuana, the heroin, the crack, the cocaine. But they do not go to prison for it. Because the government can collect taxes from them. But the one on the street, the little man on the street, he can't collect any taxes from them. So one is a licensed drug dealer and drug dispenser. It's like the kid who was in school and the teacher was going around asking each child, what do their father do for a living? And this one says he's a lawyer, this one says a teacher, this one says a farmer, this one says a mechanic. When you get to this little boy, he said, the little boy dressed nice and everything, right? I said, what do your father do for a living? He says, he's a drug dealer. And she thought maybe he didn't hear the question properly. So she repeated it, and he said, he's a drug dealer, man. And then she said, listen, tell me off of that. He said he's a pharmacist, he deals in drugs. He dispenses drugs. He's a drug dealer. Why do you believe when people go to school and study pharmacology, they are not drug dealers? They are. Only that they're dealing with the legal one, which kills more people. I don't know the Jamaican statistics, but I can tell you that drug use, legalized drug use in the United States is the fourth leading cause of death, responsible for over 200,000 deaths every year. Marijuana, crack cocaine, you name it, do not kill that many people. And yet they are outlawed, and rightly so they should be. But most of these drugs should be outlawed. Let me tell you why I know that too, right? There's a drug that calls Celebrex. And it's an arthritic drug. So if you're feeling that pain, you go to the doctor and he doesn't tell you that, well, listen, that chicken that you're eating, or any animal product but using chicken, right? When you eat it, the body breaks it down, uses the amino acid, yes, to make new protein, but also it gets from it something called uric acid. The uric acid goes into the joint and depletes or eliminates the synovial fluid, which is a lubricant, and it's in all the joints, so that when you move your hands, feet, your back, one bone doesn't rub against another and causes a friction. So when you start feeling any joint pain, you know, well, it's the lubricant in there called synovial fluid, right? The cartilage that is so worn down that one bone is rubbing against another. Your doctors won't tell you that, because you know why? So if he tells you, well, it is a uric acid from these things, then you're going to have sense and say, listen, let me stop eating those things. For those of us who regard our body as the Lord's temple, some of us don't care a biscuit, which is unfortunate, because I know I have many people who call me, and when I tell them that they have to change, as I told you, something has to be in it for the Lord. When I tell them, okay, the high blood pressure problem, I say, do you eat animal product? And most of them tell me, yes, that's natural, I used to do it. And I tell them, oh, the cholesterol is clogging the passageway, right, that goes through, that the blood runs through in the artery. And so as it gets smaller, narrower, then that puts more pressure on the heart to pump the blood through, so then the pressure must go up. What I can understand is, you come to us doctors, and we give you a drug, while we say nothing about that which you are doing from the stress factor to others, that which you are doing to lower, right, to increase the cholesterol. That would be like you cooking something, and like me cooking something, and I said, taste if the food is salt. And you taste it, and I said, yes, it is salt. And instead of taking up some fresh water and pour in there to dilute the salt content, I take up some salt water and pour in the pot, and you're looking at me shocked and amazed. I said, maybe Dr. Morgan didn't hear what I said, that it is salty. And he said, but Dr. Morgan, I'm shocked that you put more salt water in there and it is already salty. I said, no, I have another bottle, and I shake some things in there. I said, what is that? That is to dilute the salt content. You look at me and say, he's a madman. Because it's already salty. You put more salt and then put something in there to neutralize the salt. You're either wasting the salt or you're causing more problem. Well, isn't that what we do when we go to when you come to us as doctors, right? We give you something for the blood pressure, but you can still go home and eat your chicken and fish and whatever. Then you're supposed to take, and you continue loading up your body with more cholesterol, but you're supposed to take this pill. You see what is happening? So these are the things that we won't tell you, but then that is why you have to have what we call common sense, which is not common anymore. But Jesus saw all of this coming, and he knew that it would be coming, and so that is why in Matthew 24, verse 37 through 39, he said, as it was in the days of Noah, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving to marriage. You know why he connected those two? Because the Lord knows that that which we eat and drink has a lot to do with the divorce rate and the rate of the breakfast. I won't spell that one out, but you know what I mean. Supper, let me call it supper. So we can either call it breakfast, some people break their fast with that. Some people leave it for supper, or whatever. Alright, whether it's breakfast or supper. And he knows that there's a connection between eating and drinking and the supper, the frequency of supper. You notice when he said the children of Israel ate and they rose up to play? What do you think that play was?
Licentiousness.
Exactly. Supper again, but illegal supper. Or intemperate supper. Supper too often. You know that supper can be intemperate too? Oh yes. Alright? So the Lord said that the food would lead man to where it would affect their mind. But then also he goes on in Luke 17, verse 26 through 30. So he covered back then again, Luke recorded where he covered no, but he then went on to talk about those in Lot's day. And he included the food. And he said they bought, they sold. Now, there was marriage in that case, but their marriage was not their regular marriage. Their marriage was the one in the French Revolution. You know what I mean? Alright? And the one going on in the United States. Oh, by the way, if you give me the biggest house in Canada, I'm not living there. Unless the Lord said I should live in Canada. Because Canada for years now has outlawed, right, any negative enunciation coming about homosexuality. You're not even allowed to preach in the church that homosexuality is a sin. In Canada. Not asking you that, I'll tell you. Supreme Court ruled that. So this is how serious Canada is. And yet, many like Lot, and this is Lot, only look at the prosperity of Canada, which is not prosperous anymore, because the Lord said, righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is what? A reproach unto any people, including Canada, Jamaica, or wherever. And so, you could give me the most beautiful house there, mansion, I'm not going. Unless the Lord said, Morgan, that you have a work to do there. Because I will not live in such an environment where I cannot freely testify of the goodness of God and God's wrath against sin, while God loves the sinner.